You guys put some in 945 here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm gonna be ranked and back with another One Piece tier list, and um, I got a really interesting idea from talking to some people I'm in a Discord server with, and someone suggested that I rank One Piece characters by how far they would get in Squid Game. Um, and I thought this was a really interesting idea. I've already seen I've already watched a video where someone did like anime villains in general making it through Squid Game, but that was like a much more in-depth breakdown. That's not the type of thing I'm going to be doing here. I'm just going to be kind of ranking them based on how I think they would do. I'm gonna, and then so we have the tiers. We have wins all the money. We have makes it very far, eats in progress, survives around two, and dies in red light, green light. Now, some important clarifications that I am going to be making for this tier list. I every character on here will not be able to use any devil fruits or poppy at all. Because let's be honest, with some of the devil fruits in here, they could just straight up annihilate the whole entire game. And hockey, for obvious reasons, would just make it way too easy. However, what I am going to stick with is every single character's canon physical stats. So their strength, their height, their IQ, all of that is going to remain the same. Any combat abilities that they might possess, but they would not try to use it to break out of the game necessarily. They would use it to remain within the parameters of the rules, uh, just to make things easier for myself when considering these. So yeah, no double fruits, no hockey, but like natural strength and combat ability and IQ and stay. Um, and I did consider like maybe leaving in certain devil fruits and leaving out other ones, but ultimately I feel like that just does not really make for a very fair ranking, so we're not going to do that. Okay. Starting off with Absalom. So, I mean, if Absalom had his clear fruit, then he would probably just wipe this entire competition, being realistic here. Um, but he does not have that, and as such, he is definitely the kind of stupid MFer that would mess up in the first round. I'm gonna say he dies in red light, green light. Um, okay. So Ace. I think Ace would make decent progress, but I feel like the thing that would inhibit Ace is the fact that he is um a very he can be kind of cocky at times, and I feel like that would have a bad habit of potentially getting him screwed over at certain points. Okay. Alvida, I'm also not going to allow any weaponry as well, by the way. So like any characters that fight with swords, guns, in this case, Alvida's club, not allowing those either. Um uh I think Alvida survives a round or two because I think that she would probably be able to use um Well, no, actually, even then, she's not. She's gonna be fat Alvida because considering the situation where she doesn't eat her devil fruit, I think that she's honestly like fat Alvida. Yeah, not going anywhere to be real. Um, okay, Aokiji. I am going to have multiple winners in here because, um, I'm thinking about it as like all different scenarios where there could be different winners between different characters. So like I'm not just gonna have one winner, and that be like them better than every other character in its top tier. I just think that they would all be capable of winning a round against a group of One Piece characters, most likely. Um, so Aokiji, I think, is one of the potentially best contenders that you would see on this entire list because he is extremely intelligent. Even without his Delphi in hockey, he's very strong. He's an admiral, so he has like crazy combat skill, and he is extremely ruthless. So, um, yeah. Okay, Scratchman a Poo, I think, is dying in red light, green light. Um, Arlong. Okay. Arlong is very interesting because he has a lot of augmented strength, which would definitely give him an advantage over other human characters. Um, I think that he makes decent progress, but I feel like his ego gets in the way of him. Buggy is a coward who I think gets eliminated in the first round. Now, when I talk about these characters, I'm not gonna be talking about Primebeard in this situation, because I think it makes for a slightly more interesting discussion, because obviously Primebeard would clear this. I think that Whitebeard makes it extremely far. I think the only reason I don't have him as one of the winners is because of his old age potentially being an inhibiting factor. Bartolomeo, I'm gonna say survives a round or two because I think he's got some decently quick wits about him, but at the same time, I feel like he is going to very easily make an enemy of somebody, and I think that that is going to lead to him not lasting very long. Ben Beckman, I think, is another top contender here because he is the smartest character in the East Blue. Um, and I think that I think he's just clearly very intelligent. And he's very strong, clearly very gifted in combat. At least I think, because we haven't really seen much of Ben Beckman. Um, I think Capone Beji, honestly, also another top contender because I think he's another very, very smart character who especially knows how to keep things to himself and not necessarily attract too much attention to himself. Um, Bellamy, I think, survives maybe a round or two, but I think that his ego would definitely get in the way, and he would very easily make enemies of somebody. Bellamere, I think, makes it very far The only reason I would not put her up in top contender is because I think that he may not be as ruthless as might be necessary in this game. Um but also, I think there is the issue of the fact that a lot of characters are just physically more able than she is, and eventually she kind of reaches a limit to how far she can physically go when matched up against other characters. And I am doing this based off the season one games, by the way, because I think they're more iconic and it's easier to think about somewhat. Um, Beppo. Uh-oh. I think that Beppo would make decent progress. I think the thing that holds Beppo back is he probably would very easily seek to find friends, and I think that Beppo could find himself being easily deceived, and as a result gets taken out because of that. Um, Big Mom. Okay. So Big Mom is fucking gigantic. Um, I think that Big Mom would make it very far. I think the only reason that because she is quite intelligent, but I think that her ego would get in the way. But she definitely makes it farther than say someone like Arlong, for example. Bruno, I think, is extremely intelligent, has a lot of combat skill, but once again, I think the ego really gets in the way. Blackbeard, on the other hand, I don't think he has the IQ to certainly make it to a top contender, but I think at a certain point he kind of finds himself a bit physically outmatched by some of the other characters by comparison in some of the other games. Um and I think he would find himself like potentially quite outmatched in a game like the Glass Blade, for example. Um or potentially even tug of war maybe. Um, Bonnie, I'm gonna say, uh, Bonnie is very clever, but I think purely because of the fact that she is canonically only 12 years old, I think that she just gets outmatched in a lot of ways. I think that she only lasts a round or two. Um, Groggy. So, Groggy is a is very, very huge. I don't really see a way in which he could reasonably compete in it. Um, how big is big? 28. Okay, I think I'm actually gonna make a new tier for could not reasonably compete because I think we're gonna start running into some issues here. I think Big Mom has to go down there. And to be honest, like same thing with Rocky. How tall is oh, what's this guy's name? Douglas. What? Okay. Well, Douglas Bullet, I'm going to say. I want to say he makes it very far, but I think he's just kind of outwitted by some of these top contenders. I'm gonna probably say the same thing for. Why am I forgetting his name? Um, what is his name, dude? Jesus Burgess. I don't know how I forgot his name. Jesus Burgess, I think, would make it very far. Um, oh, Cavendish is an interesting one. Okay. So Cavendish is the real thing that has to be considered with Cavendish is Hakuba as the other side of his personality because that could be a way to eliminate a lot of enemies, but it also could be a way to make many, many more. As a result of that, I think that the Hakuba factor would mean that he creates a lot of chaos, but ultimately, I think he ends up making too many enemies to be able to reasonably go on. This guy is absolute fodder. He gets out in round one. Um, and same thing with Lola's sister. I think I don't remember what her name is, but Meji's wife definitely not making it far at all. Dong Xinjiao, I think, is how tall is he actually? Yeah, what the fuck? Okay, so he could probably reasonably compete. Um, I'm gonna say that Dong Xinjiao would make it very far. But I think that his ego would get in the way at a certain point. Um, Hopper is very smart, has a lot of knowledge, but I feel like he would be um easily manipulated at a certain point to be able to continue onward. Um what is this guy's name again? I am so bad with the names of these characters. He looks so freaking familiar. Who is this? It's Cracker. Okay, okay, okay. I think Cracker could make decent progress, but I think that um I think at the same time his ego would get in the way of him advancing. Crocodile I think makes it. Ooh, would Crocodile be a top contender actually though? Crocodile does have a very big ego, but he's also extremely intelligent. Ah, Yeah. I'm gonna say he makes it very far, but not quite a money winner necessarily. Um, Lucas, I mean, he is an intelligent doctor character, but I don't know. He's not very active enough. I feel like he just wouldn't really care enough, and I feel like he would not really have the necessary motivation to continue on with the game. Um, Mr. One, I think, an extremely intelligent character. I also think Mr. One is a top contender because he's crocodile without as much of the ego issues, to be honest. And I think Dofi is also another top contender because he's one of the most um, intelligent devil fruit users, and he's very like ingenious strategy wise. And he's very evil, so he could definitely make it to the forefront for sure. Who is this? I cannot. Oh, it's Dory. Okay, yeah, we're gonna put him next to Froggy for the same reasons I explained earlier. Now, as much as I like to call Dragon a fraud, I can't deny he's probably intelligent enough to make it all the way to the end, even if he fraudulently does so. Um, um, that's Drake. I just don't think he has the wits or tactics necessarily to survive as long as some of these other characters. And I think that he, at a certain point he would probably get a bit too scared, and that would just lead to his downfall. I don't know why there are two versions of Enel on here, but I think Enel is probably a top contender because even in spite of the fact he has a ridiculous ego, he just would be absolutely insane when it comes to like just pure combat proficiency and like his insane speed and everything. I think Enel is a easy winner. Foxy, I don't think gets red light or green light because he's way too fucking stupid. Fujitora, despite the fact that he is blind, I think he's also another fantastic top contender for this list. Um, and Fukuro, I think, dies in the first round because even in spite of his combat abilities, I just think he is a complete idiot. Um, Garth? Hmm. Yeah, I think Garp's another top contender for a lot of the same reasons as the other admirals, especially Aokiji, because of the fact that Garp trained Aokiji. Gendo, I'm sorry, man, you're just not enough in this competition. Haj Rudin is too big to reasonably compete. Boa is extremely intelligent and can easily seduce every single male character there, even if she doesn't have the Delver to turn into stone. It'd be very easy for her to make it all the way through, I think. Um, Hawkins, I'm gonna say that he survives a round or two, but I think that he just ultimately gets outwitted, put in a bad situation which he cannot really overcome necessarily. Helmeppo, I love you, dude, but like you just do not have the amount of intelligence that it takes, I think, to survive more than a round or two. And Higuma easily gone in the first round. Um, Hina, I think way too much of an ego that really holds her back in that department. Um, Iceberg, I'm sorry, just does not do enough. And does not have enough to get past. Um, well, mm, yeah, no, I don't even think he would be clever enough to get past Red Light, Green Light. Um, Niji, so obviously raid suits are not being taken into consideration here, but he does have his Chirma genetics, which I think would be a reason that he makes it very, very far. Ideo, I think he could make decent progress, but I feel like I have not seen enough from him to kind of move him any higher than that for me, and this is my list. Um, Inazuma? Inazuma, maybe? I forget his name exactly. I think it's Inazuma, actually. I think Inazuma might be. I think Inazuma would make decent progress, but I don't think he makes it as far as the other characters. Um, as this goes on, this might become less and less logic based necessarily. Um, so if you don't like that, then do not continue watching the video, I suppose. But okay, Ivankov. I think Ivankov is a very smart character, actually. I would say top contender because very smart revolutionary commander who knows how to very smartly make alliances and get rid of them when necessary. Um, is this Cabra? I think that he probably makes it the same level as Bruno, but he is inhibited by his ego somewhat. I don't remember who that is. Diamond Jozu. I think that Diamond Jozu makes it very far, but unfortunately, I think it's just not to the same standard as the other characters. Judge, I think one of the smartest, scientifically wise One Piece characters there is, a very smart dude. Very merciless for that matter. I think he's honestly probably a top contender. Kaido cannot reasonably compete. Um, Haku is very smart, very much has his wits about him. I would actually say he's another top contender as well. Khalifa, way too egotistical and also just not nearly as smart as some of the other CP0 agents. I think that Khalifa, realistically, even if she sticks together with the other ones, I think he's not as intelligent as Jabba or Bruno. I think she lasts maybe a round or two. Um, Curry, I think, very, very smart character who honestly, I'm gonna say Katakuri is another top contender. Um, Killer, I think, would make it very far, but I think he might make a bit too many enemies with his very chaotic nature, especially after eating a smile fruit that just kind of leads to him not being able to um progress as much as he wanted due to like consistent targeting and such. Do I include King's Lunarian abilities? Hmm, I don't know. I am. I am not sure if I should include King's Lunarian abilities or not. I think those might be a bit too broken. Um, yeah, I think I don't include the Lunarian abilities because I think it just creates way too much of an unfair advantage. And with that in mind, with him not having his Lunarian abilities, I think it significantly hurts where King would be able to go um with his progress here. Um I think that King would make decent progress, but I think he's just kind of outmatched by some of the other characters' natural ability. Kizaru, I think all the admirals are probably top contenders. That's an easy one. I think Koala makes decent progress, but I think that she would rely too much on other people in a similar way to Chopper. Kobe, I think, makes it very far, but he just does not have perhaps quite the cunning or ruthlessness required to be a top contender in Squid Game. Um, hmm, the leader of the rebels on Alabasta, I think he makes decent progress, but he just does not have enough to be able to withstand some of the efforts of the top contenders. Don Krieg would not have any of his weapons, obviously, and without his weapons, he's kind of left with a lot of ego and not much intelligence to boot. I think that there is a good chance that he messes up like an idiot during red light, green light. Um, Kumadori is, uh, Kumadori is just a weirdo and an idiot, but I think he at least survives around due to at least some level of CP0 skill. Kuma, I don't think can reasonably compete due to the fact that he is a cyborg under control. He doesn't really possess enough of his own will to be able to, I think, fairly be included in this list. Dr. Correja, I think, would survive for a round or two due to her clever wits, but I think she is way too old to easily progress that far into Squid Game. Kuro, I think, would make good progress because he's quite intelligent, but I think his ego would most definitely get way. Lafitte, I am not going to rank because I just simply do not know enough about him. Law, I think reasonably top contender because he is one of the smartest One Piece characters, one of the most clever Delver users, even though that's not being included in this. Um, he has a brilliant mind for strategy because he thought up that whole plan to take down Kaido, even if part of it was like to get revenge on Dofi. It was still quite a well thought out plan that he still continued with even after he didn't end up dying, killing Dofi as he might have initially intended. Um, I think Leo makes it actually good progress, but I think he's just outmatched by a lot of other characters on this list. Um, Rob Lucci, I think, is another top contender because I think that just like Kaku, he clearly has the intelligence and the resolve of the best among the CB0 agents and among these other characters to be able to make it as far as he does. Lucky Roo, I mean, he just has ridiculous speed. I think that alone, like broken physical attributes, allows for that. Um, okay, the big one, Luffy. Okay. So Luffy is not that intelligent. Um, like, when where intelligence is concerned because he's always doing very stupid things, but in battle he has very high battle IQ and he's very emotionally intelligent as well. I think the only reason I would not put Luffy in a top contender is because I think that he could be perhaps a little too easily manipulated by someone else, but I do think Luffy would make it very far. Makino, I'm sorry, you just do not have what it takes to participate. Um, Marco. So Marco, without his Delver, is definitely a big hurt to him, but I do think he would make decent progress before just being outmatched by the cunning and potential physical abilities of some of the other characters. Mihawk, easy top contender. I don't think that needs much explanation. Momonga, I don't really know enough about him to properly rank him, to be honest. Gecko Moria, how tall is Gecko Moria? I don't think there's a way that Gecko Moria can reasonably compete. Um, uh, Von Flair, I think that he has potentially some emotional attachments which could kind of hinder his progress a bit. I think that he would make decent progress though. Nojiko, I'm sorry, just does not have what it takes, and I think Nami is one of the smartest characters, and honestly would make it very far, but just does not have quite the level of cunning and deception and betrayal potentially that would be needed to win. Hachan, I think, just is not serious enough about it, and unfortunately, I think he would die in red light, green light. Um, Columbus, I think, is too big. Oars definitely can't participate, and the Pacifista is just a robot who is not really an able participant. Um, Holly, I think, survives probably a round or two, but is not of the same caliber of intelligence and physical ability as a lot of other characters on this list. Um, Hal would clearly try and sacrifice himself, um, by um trying to die for another character in red light green light, but then he would magically not die and become one of the top contenders. um and then we have Corona. Corona, I'm sorry, you die in red light green light. I just like does not have the right temperament to handle it. I think Rayleigh is a top contender, and I think he is just the farther version of Whitebeard in the sense he is not necessarily limited by a sickness factor. Um, and he has a lot of the same attributes as like Garp or one of the other animals, essentially, despite his age. Um, Reiju, I think, um, could make it very far, but I feel like he would be eventually manipulated by someone slash fall into some sort of trap, but not necessarily the same ego problem as her brother. Ryuma is dead, and I don't really feel like counting Prime Ryuma in this scenario, so yeah, um I think both Sabo and Akainu are pretty easy top contenders, to be honest. Um, Sanji, okay. So the really difficult thing with Sanji is the fact that um he is an extreme perv when it comes to women. And um because of the fact he does not have his incredible observation hockey or like Lady Radar or anything like that assisting him, um he is very physically able, but I think he could, like, for example, he could be super easily manipulated by Boa, but I think he would make it very far. Um, oh boy, Sengoku. I think Sengoku is a top contender for a lot of the same reasons as um Garth or Aokiji. I don't know who this silhouette is supposed to be. Shanks, right alongside Mihawk, is a top contender. I think for a lot of the same reasons as Ben Beckman as well. Um, I'm sorry, I don't remember your names, Lost Roommates, but you just do not make it very far. Shiryu, I think, would attempt to, not literally because he won't have his sword, but he'll try to stab somebody. He'll try to stab too many people in the back, and I think it will just not work out for him, but I think he makes decent progress. And, hmm, uh, smoothie. I don't know. I don't know, like, enough about movie. Uh, I'm just gonna say decent progress because that's not really based on anything. Found him easily out in the first round. Stasi, very intelligent character. I think, honestly, top contender material there. Uh, who is this? I can't really tell who that's supposed to be. Tsuru, I mean, I haven't seen very much of Tsuru, but assuming she's anything like Garp, I'm probably assume the same kind of territory for her. Rouge, I think, what might make a bit too many enemies in order to really go super far, but I do think he would make decent progress. Usopp, I think, survives at least a round or two, but he's way too much of a coward to go any further. Um, Van Augur, I think, top contender even without any weapons. He's extremely intelligent, and that would be kind of light work for him. I think Vista also makes it very far as well, but not quite to the same degree. Wapple, like without his Galford or anything, easily dies in red light, green light. Um, I'm gonna put Yasop in the same category as Shanks and Mihawk. Just the intelligence and physical capability are probably unmatched. Um, Niji, I'm gonna put him. Or sorry, this is Yonji. I'm gonna put him right beside his brother here. That in his old age just does not have the right stuff to cut it. Well, I'm actually gonna say he might survive the first round, but beyond that, I think it is not looking great for him. Zoro. So we have to be so realistic with ourselves. In spite of the fact that I want to rank Zoro very highly, Zoro would find some way to get lost and probably end up be in the wrong area at the wrong time and be gone. Um, before red light, green light even begins. Caesar is very intelligent, but I think his ego may get in the way. I'm gonna say he makes it very far, but not quite a top contender to win all the money. I think Caribou is way, way too much of a coward in similar situation to Absalom or Higuma. He just has way too much of an ego going on to be able to make it very far at all. Um, I think Corazon would make decent progress, but I think his issue would probably be he would be too trusting of other people and not really have the cunning necessary to make it much farther than that. Um, Dellinger, I think he survives at least the first round, but I think his ego would get in the way too much. And I'll probably say the same thing about Diamante. Fisher Tiger, I think, like Corazon, is possibly too trusting of others, but I think he would make decent progress due to the fact he is a fish man. Um, Coors Jr. cannot reasonably compete, and Magellan would, well, no, let me not rush ahead here. The vice warden of the jail, I can't remember his name. Um, hmm, I don't know. I feel like he's a bit too stupid. I feel like he might last at least a round, but he's too stupid to make it any farther than that. Iman, I think, is very intelligent. He probably just does not have the same physical capabilities to be able to last with the top tiers. Magellan, I'm gonna say actually a top contender because if he's not worried about eating poisons and shitting, he's extremely intelligent and definitely a very ruthless. Um, I think this is supposed to be Monet. Way too many ego issues gets out on the first round. I think Pedro makes it very far, but he would probably end up dying by sacrificing himself in some way. I don't know enough about Shiki to probably rank him. Rebel, yeah, I know he's gone in the first round. Virgo, I think, would make decent progress, but his ego would get in the way too much. And is this Frankie? I can't tell. I don't think so. Okay. I think we've got a pretty nice and complete list here. This is my ranking of how certain One Piece characters would do if they played Squid Game without any weapons, devil fruits, or hockey gear. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.